Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me today on our weekly Q&A with the Family Support Team. We are in the midst of October, which means it's National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and we're going to spend all our time this month exploring employment and all the different pieces for you to be really confident to go out and pursue a great job. Everything about employment's important. I feel like once you have a job, you have your own resources to make decisions. You have a chance to live in your community. You have free spending money to make choices about what you do with your social life. So I'm excited about this week's topic. Brian, I'm so glad to have you here. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your role at the St. Louis Arc and how long you've been with us, all the good stuff.
My name is Brian Hubler. I've been with the St. Louis Arc now for 15 years. Had to look back. I've actually been in the field now for 24 years. I graduated from Central Methodist College back in 1999 and started in this field immediately. I've been working in the employment department for all of those years, and it's been an amazing process. I can't be happier that I'm at the St. Louis Arc now. When individuals with intellectual development disabilities decide that they're ready for independent employment, what are the steps? What's the process? The importance of choice in choosing the provider for yourself or your loved one is the most important step. It's your choice to always pick who you're working with. And that's really what we want to help you with today and along throughout this process. So the first step is you're going to call your local VR office. In St. Louis, we have 5 different VR offices located throughout the St. Louis area. If you need information on those local offices, we can assist you with that. The first step you're going to do is you're going to call them and you're going to tell them that, hey, I'm interested in employment, or my loved one is interested in employment. What they're going to do is they're going to give you a list of provider names, such as the St. Louis Arc. You're going to call them and you're going to ask questions. You're going to find out which provider is the best for you. One thing I want you to keep in mind is, do the providers call you back? How long does it take providers to call you back? Those are always good things to keep in mind when making that choice. But when you're speaking with them, you need to ask them questions about, do they have a wait list? And if so, how long? Because that's going to be important for you to know when you're going to be able to get started. You might want to ask them, what size caseloads do they have for their staff? At the St. Louis Arc, we typically like to keep our caseloads as small as possible for our job developers, and around 8 to 10 individuals per. Some agencies will have caseloads up to 40 or 50 per staff. You might want to ask questions about, do they provide transportation during the job discovery and job search phases? At the Arc, we do provide that transportation, but other providers do not. You might want to ask about, what's the average length of employment for people they've helped. At the St. Louis Arc, our average length of employment right now for individuals we've helped get a job is 8.2 years. To me, that's a tremendous number. And if you speak with a lot of people in today's economy, they're not staying that long. So there might be a ton of other questions you might have, and VR will also give you a list of questions to ask, but those are important for you in helping decide who you want to work with. Once you've made your choice in providers, you're going to call VR back and inform them of your decision. VR is going to set up a planning conference with you and your chosen provider to begin services. At the planning conference meeting, we'll discuss expectations for the program. We want the individual to be highly engaged and involved in the process all the way through. This will be your job. So we want you to be involved in every step along the way. We want to know what your expectations are of us. How do you prefer communication? What supports do you need to be successful along the way? At the end of that planning process, we're going to jump into services. The beginning service is what we call discovery. We're going to help the individual discover really what are their interests, what are their strengths, what do they want to do. A lot of individuals will come to us and say they want to work with animals. And working in that field can be great and very rewarding. But when we ask individuals what it means to work with animals, they may not know. So we'll talk through. It's cleaning soiled newspapers. It's doing a lot of the dirty work. And a lot of individuals will come back and say, absolutely not. That's not what I want to do. I've got a pet at home. I've got a dog or a cat, and I get to love on them. That's what I like. So during the discovery process, we're helping them really figure those pieces out. So we have ideas and setting goals for where we can start looking for work. As we're discovering those pieces, we're also going to be doing the exploration process. The exploration process is where a staff is working one-on-one with the individual, and we're going out into the field to establish relationships we have with employers, and we're doing job tryouts. We're helping the individual explore those jobs to see, does it still match their interests? Does it match their strengths and what they want to do? A good example, back when I first started in this field, I had an individual that came to me that said he wanted to be a NASCAR driver. And we always talk about realistic versus non-realistic job opportunities. And when he told me he wanted to be a NASCAR driver, I was kind of stumped. I knew that was going to be an impossible job at the time. But what I didn't do is open my mind at first to what did that really mean for this individual. So I spent time with him and his family and really got to know really what is his passions and what does he like. And when I was spending time with them, I found out that this individual and his dad watched all the top NASCAR races on the weekends together. They loved going to the dirt track racing. So that's really what's his passion. That's what he enjoyed. So what ended up happening is we ended up helping him get a job at the NASCAR Speed Track, which is a go-kart track. He ended up staying in that job for a little over 6 years. So if I would have immediately jumped to this is unrealistic, he would have never gotten into that dream job. So that's really what our process is about. It's really helping us get to know the individual so that we can help them find the best opportunities for them. Once we've done all the discovery and exploration and we've set ourselves up for in the right direction, we move into the next phase. It's called job development. Job development is where we're going to build our resume. We're going to start filling out applications. We're going to do practice interviews. We're going to start going to interviews, helping that individual in interviews if they want that assistance. Some people want to do that on their own. It works either way, what works best for that individual. As they're going through those interviews and they land that dream job, the next phase is what we call job coaching. As an agency, we provide one-on-one supports in the beginning at 100%. So we will go to the job day one with the individual and support them in learning their environment, learning how to navigate, learning who their coworkers are, who their supervisors are, what are their job tasks or the hard skills of the job. We're going to help them with social skills of learning how to communicate, socialize when they're needing additional duties or how to fit into the lunchroom. As the individual's becoming more and more independent on the job, we start to fade out. What we don't want in this process is for anybody to ever be reliant upon paid services. And that's what the St. Louis ARC team is we are paid services. We want the individual to become independent as possible on the job. So we have to fade throughout the process. So as they're learning their job tasks, we're fading more until they're as close to independent as possible. And we move into the last phase of employment, which we call job retention. Job retention is a service that's for life of the job, as long as the individual needs our services and wants our services. Job retention, we will go in around 3 to 5 hours on average per month to go in and check in with the individual to see how things are going. Are they still doing well on their job? We're going to check in with the employer and make sure things are going well on their end as well. And let's say that there is a hiccup and something's not going well, we can increase those supports to help reteach a skill or teach a new skill, new job duties that have been added to their list. Maybe it's a new supervisor that's come in, and we need to really come in and work with the new supervisor more so than the individual to really help them work with their employees. So that's a quick explanation of what our services are. Back to it's your choice. So what happens if you're ever unhappy with the process along the way? Of course, like any situation in life, it's always best to work towards a solution if possible, but in the end, you're the driver of your services. You have a choice in who provides your services. You can always change service providers at any point along the way to reach your employment goals. So Sharon, that's a quick explanation of choice and how important it is for people to make their decisions and choices in life, and a quick explanation of what our services entail. And I always want to make sure that I tell everybody I'm always available for questions at any point in time. All they have to do is call me or email me, and I'll help them throughout this process.
The first thing I thought it would be good to talk about is like, when should somebody start building a relationship with Voc Rehab and a supported employment provider? How does that match up within the school system? And what is your role at an employment agency, particularly at the ARC, in engaging within the school?
So your first question really was around when should individuals start getting connected with vocational rehabilitation. That's changed over the years. The way that it's currently set up is individuals should be speaking with their teacher along the way to really understand what that process is and how to stay connected. The current process, individuals that are in their last semester of school is when the teacher will help you connect with your vocational rehabilitation office. It used to be much sooner than that. It used to be at the beginning of their senior year or their last year in school, but they've changed that process now to be in their last semester. As an agency, we are very involved and stay connected with all of the school districts because we want to make sure that they're aware of our supports. So that information filters down to each individual about what programs we have. And it's not just about employment. It's about our leisure services, about our residential services, and that list goes on and on. We want families and individuals to be aware so that they can get connected when they move into the adult world.
So this is a little bit off topic from kind of making your choice about a provider, but I think it's something that I talk to families about a lot, and particularly in thinking about the fact that you're not going to connect with Voc Rehab until the last semester. That's not really when you should be thinking about employment. You need to start thinking about employment years before that. What are some of the things you think are helpful for a middle schooler and a high schooler to start taking on responsibility-wise so that they're really ready for the world of employment when the time is right?
You can't start soon enough. Learning responsibilities in life is not something that you can just pick up later in life. Those are things that you hone in at an early age. And as we're talking to families and those questions are asked, we encourage people to make sure that we're doing chores at home. It's talking about taking trash out, putting a new trash can liner in, doing other chores around the house and being responsible for those and doing those. Those are always huge pieces. I do those with my own kids, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. But yes, start sooner than later and teaching those skills and those responsibilities.
Fabulous. Yeah, I think that is super critical. I think it's important that you have high expectations, not only of the types of tasks people are going to do, but also how well they're going to do them, because all those things are going to impact future employment opportunities. So as you were talking, I made a few notes, and that first step of employment, discovery and exploration. I think sometimes families are confused and frustrated because they're coming from a system where there was a lot of guaranteed services, but employment isn't a guaranteed service. A person's got to qualify to be ready and able to go out and get a job. So, what are some of the things that you look for in your discovery and exploration assessment? And what happens if somebody is not deemed ready at that moment to get a job?
In today's world or economy, any employee with a disability or not is expected to do the essential functions of the job. So any job that we're applying for, each individual or person has to do the expectations of the job. Now we can help with accommodations, but we can't change a job completely around. Now, if there's, 20 tasks that an individual is supposed to do, we might be able to work with the employer to be able to do 19 of the 20 and be able to work with them of maybe changing a portion of the job around. But having that expectation going in, we can't with employers. They're expecting everybody to be able to do their job as expected. What we're looking for with individuals is what's their stamina? Can they work for 4 hours at a time? Can they communicate, or is there tools that can they communicate with their coworkers or employer, or is there tools that we can help put in place that's going to help them be successful? There's a long list of things that we're obviously going to be looking for, but communication, work ethic. Does the individual want to work, or is it mom or dad that wants them to work? If the individual doesn't want to work, that's a hard one to overcome, Sharon. It really is. We are a program that does say no. And what does that sounds scary, right? And what that means is it's no right now. It doesn't mean no forever. When an individual is not ready for a job, we are still in your corner. We're still there to help you as an agency. Our job is to help you get to the point where you can reach independent employment. So we're going to help you with additional resources. We're going to find other programs that are going to help you get to those employment goals. One of the programs that we have in the house is our pre-employment program. It's a program that's designed to work with people that aren't quite ready for independent employment just yet. And that's a year-long program where our staff work one-on-one with the individual to really hone in on those hard skills or soft skills to help them be successful in the long run.
I'm going to just ask for a quick clarification in case somebody doesn't know the difference between a hard skill and a soft skill. What does that mean?
Yeah, so our soft skills are really the social skills. It's that fitting into that environment, being able to ask questions from your supervisors, fitting into the lunchroom, having those conversations, and just those normal daily water cooler conversations that we have on a daily basis. The hard skills are really is just the job tasks. What are the duties that are required to do the job? So if you're a janitor, it's gaining, where are my supplies kept? What supplies do I need to go complete a task, and so on. Does that make sense, Sharon?
It makes tons of sense. And I think most people understand that. And I think that it's we've learned over time that it's not just the ability to do the task, but to be a team worker, to have some good social skills. All those things can be really make it or break it in the workplace. So those are important to work on as well. When you were talking about job coaching, I thought about personal choice in that respect too. What are the options? And is it the same for all agencies? What if I don't want you to come on the job 100% with me? Do you have to be there in the coaching phase physically all the time?
No, we do not. Everything we do is based off of a plan. So we create a support plan with every individual we're working with. Let's say an individual doesn't want us there. That's the power of choice. That is their choice. If they don't want us there or need us there, we're not going to be there. And that's the beauty of life, right? We all have choices, and our choices have sometimes consequences to those. So if we make a choice and it doesn't work out, that's okay. There's a consequence to that, but it's also a learning experience that we've learned that maybe that didn't work. Where we make mistakes is when we don't learn from those choices that we made that that didn't work out for us. We have a lot of people that we've supported that want to do it on their own, and they've successfully made it to independent employment and done great. Some people just need a little bit of support and have done fantastic and are still working today. So it's different for every individual, Sharon, along the way. It's not a one-step process for everybody, for sure.
I think one of the other things that's really confusing for people is like, how do I know what are the characteristics of a good job coach? I'll be honest, when I was a job coach, I found it to be a very difficult job because you had to kind of stay in the background and find ways to interject to help the person move forward. I think a lot of times families will come to me and say either that a job coach isn't doing anything or they're doing too much. What are some of the things you look for and that you teach your coaching staff to do so that individuals and families can kind of evaluate, is my coach doing a good job?
Well, for me, communication is essential. To me, my team can't communicate too much. We want to make sure we're communicating with everybody. That's the individual. That's with the employer. That's with family if they're involved and want communication. That is absolutely huge. Supports wise, sometimes it does look like the coaches aren't doing something because they are standing from afar. And I will tell them a lot of times, you should look like a potted plant. And what that means is I want them to observe from afar to see how the individual is doing. Day one, they may have stood side by side with the individual and are really working with them on those hard skills and those soft skills. As I mentioned, we don't want anybody to be reliant on paid services. So we want our staff to stand back and observe from afar, sometimes even with the individual not even knowing we're there. So we're observing to see how they're doing on the job. So that can look like they're not a great coach, even though they are doing their job, because if they're standing from afar, they can jump right back in if need be.
So let's say they're observing from afar and they see that there's a skill problem. Maybe there's one part of the job the person isn't doing well. What is the response of a good coach to that?
It's working one-on-one with that individual and really helping them understand, is it productivity? Is it how they're communicating with customers? And it's not calling them out in front of customers or anybody else. It's working on the side with them to really hone in on those necessary skills and stepping right back out. And it's teaching in a way that our teaching strategies have to match the way that individual learns the best. So for me, I'm a hands-on learner. That's how I'm going to learn the best. So teaching styles really have to match that person and what's going to work for them. That's key always.
Are we still making a lot of kind of adaptations for people, like visual schedules and different kinds of adaptation? I can't think of the word I want.
Always, everything is always individualized though, Sharon. So it's not going to be, the same for everybody. But yeah, we do a lot of charts. We do a lot of use a lot of tools that are going to help people be successful. One example that was used for an individual that was a courtesy clerk at Schnucks. He was struggling with putting like items in the grocery bags. And if you've ever went to the grocery store and you had all your chicken and meat products put in with your paper products, it's probably not the best thing to do. So a quick tool that we did was we took pictures of a bunch of items in the store and separated them by things that can go together, laminated them, and put them at the end of the line. The store loved it so much, they made copies of it and put it on every line, and then moved it into other stores, because it not only helped that individual, it helped all of their employees understand that chicken products, meat products should go together. Paper products should be separate, and so on down the line. For something as simple as that may sound, it was an easy tool that we could put in place and walk away from it and not stand side by side and remind what goes together.
I think that's such a great example. And you're right. So many times, if you think about something that's going to make the job easier for a person with a disability, there's somebody else without a disability who's needing the same resource who can benefit from them. So thanks for sharing that, Brian. I really like that. We only have a few minutes left, so I want to circle back because I do have a question that really relates more to making the right choice about who your employment agency is. And that's about how we build our relationships with employers. And in my experience, historically, I think the ARC has approached that in some different ways from other organizations. Can you talk a little bit about how we work with employers when we don't need a job to be filled? What is our process?
Everything in life, Sharon, is about relationships, and that's one person at a time. Our goal is to always build relationships as an agency. That's one of our core values. It's being relationship focused. We can't just focus on a few employers in the St. Louis area. As an agency right now, we're currently working with a little over 250 employers. And that sounds like a lot, but that's never going to be enough for every individual that comes across to us. We never want to have a standard place of employers where people can work at. We want it to always be essential to what are their skills and what do they want. So we're always building relationships one at a time. That's going to benefit. And it's not just from my team, it's from anybody that works at the ARC. We're building relationships based off of people Sharon, or that Mark Keeley, our executive director, knows. Everything's based in that way, because St. Louis feels huge, but it's a very small world, our small community, and everybody talks in some way or another, and it can take years to build a relationship, but seconds to destroy that relationship. So it's key that we're relationship focused and we communicate, we over communicate to make sure that we're building the right relationships that are going to work for each individual. My team and I are available at any point in time. You can always call us, you can always email us. So when you do have a question later, specifically about your loved one, or for yourself, we'll gladly help you with that, or we'll get you to the right resources that you need so that you can get to independent employment when you're ready.
I'm going to encourage our families, maybe as an employee, that your business would benefit from having people with disabilities as part of your workforce. So don't forget that you can reach out to Brian as somebody that works for a company that maybe would benefit from the ARC, building a relationship with them. So let's take advantage of those opportunities as well. Thanks for coming today. We're going to continue our employment conversation next week. Leslie Quarles is going to be here. She works at the statewide level to address the Employment First initiative for our state. So she's going to come in and tell us about all the different things that are happening across Missouri to move forward employment opportunities for people with disabilities. So come back next Tuesday. Bye, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Brian.